All right, all right, all right. Another day, another dollar. It is middle of the week after work. You 9 to 5 people such as I know the grind. Today I just want to prepare the gauge mounts over here. So it should be a pretty simple task today. All I got to do is cut about a rectangular piece that just goes into the gauges because it's pretty straightforward. I got the hardware to space out for the gauge, since it's a little bit longer than what those fork mounts are. But besides the spacers, it's just a solid piece that should go doop and doop. So very straightforward. I also, if you noticed, got this bike in the air in the rear and this bike in the air in the rear because I have to swap over these tires. Oh, not just the tires, the wheels in general. This is a custom machined GSXR wheel, and it's very unique because it's one of one. It's the only one that should fit an SV. It also has a custom machined rear brake rotor that goes with it. So I definitely want these on my bike. Even if I didn't want those, this one has a nail through it. So this is a flat tire, and this one is, you can't really tell, but it's aging out. It needs to be replaced. So I need a new tire anyways, and that one needs to be patched. This one's still fine, but if I'm doing this, I might as well get a new rear tire, right? But more importantly, the wheel. That's super sick. But that's not for today. That's probably going to be tomorrow's task, along with cleaning up the brackets I make for the black bike and for this one that I already made for the yellow bike. That's all tomorrow. Today, we're just going to work on building those little brackets. Hopefully, fingers crossed, should be simple and straightforward. I think I'm going to start with a cardboard template. I dug around in my recycling, found this piece of cardboard, measured it up, drew some lines, cut it. I mean, really straightforward. Literally just cutting a rectangle out of cardboard. I tried to make holes in my template, but I forgot that it's cardboard and doesn't work so well when you try to poke a screwdriver through it. So anyways, these should be fine. I measured these out to be 3.5 inches long because the space between the holes needs to be 3 inches, but I feel like that's a little too small, so I'm actually going to make these 4 inches long. The other one I can't really hold up because one hand is the camera, the other is this monstrosity. But yeah, this should really be it. And then I have those spacers back there to make sure it doesn't move around between everything. So just need to cut out like 4 by 1 inch rectangles, 2 of them, and drill some holes 3 inches apart. That's the next step. So, this time I actually had to measure carefully because this isn't cardboard anymore, right? It's metal. I need to make sure that it doesn't look bad. Got ready, look at that cheeky guy, and cut him up, I don't have a lot of equipment. I used what I had outside, but it worked. And after I finished cutting it, I just got to drilling holes in the metal. And it was a little tricky just because, like I said, I don't have a lot of equipment to work with. I just really have the basics. So, I had to really take my time, use some WD-40 to lubricate the metal so it wouldn't get too hot. And yeah, just kept drilling and drilling. Okay, the mounts should be good. Obviously, they're not done. I still need to, grind them down and paint them, but the concept is all good. And obviously, this is not tight, but that's going to hold it up, and it's just going to hang out like that. Looks a little ugly, but gets the job done. It is the next day before I get to grinding down these brackets and painting them. I'm going to remove the wheels off these 2 bikes so I can send them to Cycle Gear to get that tire swapped here to replace the popped one, and that wheel to get a new tire. So the earlier I get to them, the better. That way hopefully they'll get it done in a day. We shall see. Getting the tire off wasn't too difficult. Straightforward stuff. I started with removing the cotter pin on the axle nut. I guess it's called an axle nut. But once I got that off, I went ahead and got that nut off and had to loosen up the chain adjuster and just the adjustments in general, those adjustment nuts. That's what finally led me to actually remove it. Funny enough, I needed to actually use the socket, the breaker bar that I have. Once that was gone, I got it off. It was simple. Everything done with that yellow bike. Moved over to the black bike after that. Same story, right? Got the cotter pin out, then just got that wheel off. Simple. Very straightforward. It's just funny that I had to use the same giant tube attached to a ratchet to get that one off. But yeah, got both off. Here are the two wheels. So this one is the one off the SV, the yellow one. Looks like just Suzuki and a little thicker looking. This one actually says Enki, the brand, that brand of wheels. I don't know if they just keep stock in GSXRs, but lighter and thinner, and it's got that cool race spec rotor for when I'm going to be commuting to work. Yeah, so these are all set. I will be dropping these off at Cycle Gear, and then we'll get to working on cleaning up those brackets. Had to drive over to my parents to grind them down because I don't own a grinder. And once I did that, painted them with just regular 2-in-1 primer and paint. So the wheels have been sent off to Cycle Gear, and the brackets are cut and painted. Close that box to let them dry in a safe environment where debris might not fall on it. So the nice thing is Cycle Gear actually managed to swap over this tire for me right then and there. I'm still waiting on the other one because the new tire has to ship. So this is the old tire from the black SV, but the wheel is from the yellow. So this is ready to go back on the bike. I just am going to hold off on that because I think I'm going to take this Vortex sprocket that I added because I'm going to verify it when I get that wheel back, but I think the teeth are in a lot better condition on this Vortex one. So I'd rather keep that for myself. Also, I do have to eventually get this exhaust off of this bike and that bike. In order to do that, I need to get to that bolt, and that bolt is extremely easy to get to while the wheel is off. So yeah, probably gonna swap that exhaust over, or I'll start mounting those brackets depending on if the paint is dry enough. Most likely I'll start with this exhaust, but I guess you'll see next clip. If you guessed exhaust, you were absolutely right. I don't know why I would do the other one first. That's just, I love doing the pretty stuff first. Before I could get to the exhaust, I noticed that the foot controls were in the way. And when I tried to remove them, of course, it was stripped. So I had to remove those other bolts. But I was able to get to it anyways. And once I got that off, exhaust was super easy. That one was pretty easy. I just had to remove the brake controls out of the way so I could reach that bolt with an extension. But of course, with my luck, these two are stripped. So like I always do, my favorite thing, delay the inevitable. So we'll get to that later. Time to go on that one. Same story here, except there was actually this tiny little plastic piece to I guess pretty it up, protect it. I assume it's like a mud flap. So got that off, and I tried to get some sockets in. Nothing fit, so I just swapped to a wrench. Thank God that worked. Because, oh, that would have been, But once I got that off, one more bolt, and the exhaust came right off. Super simple as the other one. Super simple as everything has been so far. Thank God. Same story with this one. It was pretty simple to take off. I got really lucky because I was able to take off that bolt with a tiny little Harbor Freight wrench because nothing else would reach. and I was like, oh god, this is gonna be the end, but it worked. I was able to take it off. And here are the two exhausts. I wish I could show you how much heavier that one is compared to this. You just have to take my word for it. I can't show it over video. Let's talk about this one though. Man, what is going on here? Look at this. Crazy. And all this little splatter, I guess, from the welds. And just, oh my god, absolutely horrifying. Just goes down 90 degrees like that compared to this one off the black one. Just look how pretty those welds are. Nice, concise, very simple system, very pretty. This one's just crazy. The only benefit about this one is that it's got another mount right here, while this one does not. This one has the one here, and obviously up there, but not that one. But, I mean, it holds a fine as it is. It doesn't need that third mount. That's just insane, though. Oh my god. Okay, so glad I'm putting this one on the yellow one. Dude, I'm still laughing about that exhaust. Oh my. Anyways, now is just the reverse of the process. So kind of off camera, it's funny. It looks like the exhaust was just floating up, just like before, except instead of taking 2 bolts off, I am putting 2 bolts on. And I left the foot controls off because I got to get those off eventually anyways. This exhaust is all good. Don't need to do anything with this one. But in order to run this exhaust, it goes out a little bit more, so it bumps into this jack stand. So I need to swap these jack stands for that jack, or that little motorcycle lift. But in order to use this motorcycle lift, I need to put this wheel on. And in order to put this wheel on, I need to get the other wheel back and swap the sprocket. So I can't really do that until I get the other wheel back from Cycle Gear. So that's not a big issue. We'll just take a pause there and instead start mounting up headlight stuff. I think I'm going to start with the speedometer mount for this black bike. That sounds easier. So, unfortunately, this isn't the best camera angle. I don't really have a lot of options in this garage to balance my camera setup off of. So, kind of hard to see what I'm doing, but pretty much those painted speedometer brackets, I'm just slowly screwing them in. Once I got those partially in, I was able to slip on the actual speedometer and work on that. Once I got that on, just a couple fine touches like adding the cable to connect to it, move it around, the headlight and everything so it's lined up nice and fine. And yeah, honestly, I'm sorry, I really can't tell the nitty gritty of what I'm doing here. It's just, man, I gotta work on those camera angles. Got it on though, I know that. This guy's all done. Headlight secure. Speedo mount secure. Is it clean? Kind of. I mean, it is what it is. It works. It's functional. That's what matters. On to this one. Same story with this one. Here I'm just loosening up the gauge mount bracket so I can move it out of the way and start putting on my custom fabricated bracket. I remember, oh god, it was so annoying. It was an SAE bolt, and I only have metric tools, so it was like in between a 10 and 11 millimeter wrench. So I just really had to, work really hard to make sure I wasn't stripping it and to get it on right. But we worked with what we had, and we were able to succeed in that task, thankfully. And once I got the brackets mounted, I was able to start hooking up the actual headlight mount back on. Everything was going pretty smooth. Just attaching some bolts. Not too much to say. Okay, this guy is on. That guy is on. This one definitely looks much cleaner and OEM-ish. You can't even see the black brackets, they blend in very well. Off camera, I just plugged in the turn signals to verify that they work, and they work correct. I plugged in the speedometer and turned the key to make sure everything was working here fine. So turn signals, and that worked fine. Same thing on the black bike. The headlight, I can't verify because I think I actually need to start the bike for the headlight to turn on, and I can't really start it right now. Same with that one. Actually, no, I could technically start that one. Yeah, so I haven't verified that. I wanted to verify the front brake, but just my luck. Guess what? This start-stop switch that I wired into the Brembo master cylinder, it's off of that bike. And on that bike, it's a 2003. It's a 8-pin. And the 2005, I guess, converted to a 10-pin. So that's the 05 start-stop switch I put over there. So I'm going to have to take that one back here, cut out the splice job I did, rewire it in, and then mount it up. Yeah, so a little annoying, but what are you going to do? Obviously, I need the front brake switch to work when I brake. Yeah, so I'm just going to do that off camera. You already seen me do it once. You don't need to see me do it again. Okay, that was a bit annoying, but I was on a roll, so I just grinded it all out. I ended up rewiring, so removing the splice and rewiring this one, and removing and rewiring the splice for that one. So I had to do that twice. And then, what else? I ground down that little nub so it fit flush on these aftermarket clip-ons. Same with this side. So both of those fit flush. And then, finally, I fixed this little issue that I encountered pretty early on where the spade, I forgot, is it called a spade or something? Whatever, this thingamabob ripped out. So I fixed that. And yeah, they're pretty solid. I just tested it. The brake lever turns on the light for both bikes when I apply the lever. The turn signals work fine for both bikes. The start-stop works fine. I did not test if it actually fires up or this button works because, I don't want to test that yet. The only issue I found is this bike, when I hit the emergency lights, only this light comes on, not that one. But when I use the turn signals, that one works fine. So something up with that. Not too concerned. I'll diagnose that later. Now that that stuff is done, I want to get that windshield on so it look nice and pretty. So that's the next step. In order to get the windshield on, I had to remove some of the stuff that I just put on. That's unfortunately a common theme in my work. It feels like one step forward, two steps back, right? I end up doing something and then I realize I have to undo that in order to progress. Once I finally undid those bolts, I realized I had a bolt that was a little long. Well, not the bolt, the spacer. It was a little long, so I had to trim it down just because it wasn't working right with the OEM black fairing brackets. So trimmed that all down nice and fine, and then I was able to mount up those brackets without an issue. And everything was pretty straightforward after that. Slight miscalculation on my end, but I was able to fix it quickly. These black brackets that hold up the windshield, I forgot that they have like this nut that adds some length to this. So I had to cut that usual spacer. I think it's the 1 inch and 1/2 inch. So I had to actually cut the 1/2 inch down in half and make 2 1/4 inch ones in order to compromise for that extra length that this nut here added. It's good. Thankfully, it still fits fine. What also sucks is I had to swap out these nice torque bits that I really like for these long 60mm screws that I bought earlier, only because these are threaded all the way through and these are only partially threaded. It sucks, but whatever. It's really not that big of a deal. That's just being picky at that point. So now finally comes the fun part where I get to see the yellow fairings go on. Like I stated earlier, I really enjoy progress, visual progress to be specific. It's just much more motivating. So just moving around the odometer here a little bit to make sure that it's free and I can move it around as much as I can. My fear here is that I have to trim the arms that hold it up or refabricate it. I'll do that, but I really don't want to, right? It would be annoying. So I'm hoping that's not the case. And it looks pretty good so far. I'm moving it around. I got the yellow pieces on, and the big teller will actually be the windshield. And mounting the windshield up, it's looking good. Nothing is really rubbing. So moving forward, just adding the necessary bolts and hardware, and it's coming along pretty nice. Woo-wee! Oh man, that looks great. Oh, yes. Okay, sick. That was definitely worth all of that work. Only thing is this cage cluster is just leaning a little to the left here. I think it's because I cannot, for the life of me, get this one nut right there tight because everything's in the way. I can easily get to it if I move all of this to the left, like turn left, but not a good idea to do that right now. So once I get the tire on, I can turn that and tighten that last bolt, but yeah. Oh, nice. Looking spiffy. Now I just gotta wait for that tire so I can throw the exhaust on and all that stuff. Also, I forgot to mention, I haven't put the actual headlight in either of these yet because this one that came off the yellow one has a regular bulb, and this one has a nice LED bulb. And just to make sure the bulbs are interchangeable, I want to plug it in and test it before I screw it in, because it's really only 2 screws down there. It's not a big deal. But if you're paying attention to what I said earlier, I think the only way to get the headlight to shine is if the bike is on. So that would be kind of one of the last things I do. But yeah, regardless, waiting for that stuff. Once I got the tire in, we'll touch base and keep moving forward. We're back, and we got new rubber, which I'm so excited. I love new rubber. Looks good. There's the cool little lines and everything that immediately go away, but dang, it looks good. So got that wheel ready. We're good to mount these up. So I'm just going to start with swapping the sprockets over, which I don't think I even have to swap them. I just swapped this whole piece right here. Forgot the technical term for it, but once you lift these up, can't really do it with one hand. This whole guy, pretty sure I can just swap that whole thing over. Oh wait, no, it's a different wheel. Yeah, I might have to swap the sprocket. Anyways, gonna get that situated, then put that wheel on there. I can drop that one on the ground. Then I can use that to jack up this. Oh wait, no, I can put the wheel on, then jack this up, then put the... Nope, never mind. Finish that all up, lower it, use that jack to lift this up so I can finally put the exhaust on before the wheel's on, then get that wheel on, then lower it. And then we'll have both of these bikes, hopefully, I believe, on the ground for good. Because after we get that done, all I need to do is little engine stuff and stuff under the tank, which obviously I don't need the bike lifted for. So yeah, let's get to work. So I grouped the tires up together, and I very quickly realized that those 2 pieces would not be interchangeable like I suspected because of the rear wheel. So I just started cleaning the one off the black SV. There's a bunch of gunk on it because I think the engine has a small leak. So cleaned off that gunk, and then once I got that cleaned, I started to actually swap the sprockets over. Thankfully, the bolt pattern was exactly the same. That was a slight fear of mine, but just kept cleaning it, and once I got them all cleaned up, I put on the sprocket from the yellow bike onto the wheel from the black bike. A lot less damage to the teeth, so I wanted that one instead. Now here came the kind of tricky part. It's not horrendously tricky, but it's just really annoying. It's getting this rear wheel on, right? You got to lift it up and you got to kind of balance it. It's, you know, a little heavy, not like horrendously heavy that you can't lift it, but annoyingly heavy. So here I am just finagling around with it. I use this kind of black block that I have to hold the wheel up in place slightly while I was able to shimmy everything around. And luckily I was able to get the rod through, and that was it for that one. This wheel's all done. I didn't really adjust it. I just did kind of like a eyeball adjustment on it because I'm more interested in getting that jack up and moving it onto this bike so I can start getting the exhaust on. So, whew, out of breath, man. It's so hot in this garage. There's no insulation, but better than working outside, that's for sure. At least I'm in shade. Okay, let's get to this one. There's not much to say about this one. It's pretty much the same thing, but first I had to obviously put the exhaust on, right? I talked about that before I got the wheel. This was really simple, right? It's just, you know, putting on an exhaust. It's like 3 bolts, nothing really serious. I got the left side all tightened up, then the right side. In order to tighten it up, you gotta like slip it up into the pipe that goes to the back cylinder first. So obviously slip that on and then tighten that all. And put the little mud flap guard behind there once I was done tightening the exhaust. And then I moved on to the rear wheel. I had to kind of just move a couple things around and lift it up. Luckily, you get to see it from this angle now. You saw that I accidentally had it the wrong way first, but quickly realized I had it the wrong way. The most annoying part about this is getting the rear brake on. The cylinder slides into this little groove that's really tricky to get. So it's just a lot of turning and moving around to get it into that groove. Once you got in that groove, you can just slide the rod through, hammer it in, and it's all home base from there. Home base? I don't know. Oh my god. I wish you could see how much I'm sweating. Actually, I don't want you to see how much I'm sweating, but oh my god, yeah, that was more annoying than it should have been. It's just like balancing it up, and I try to use this block, but I got it up and we're all good. Same thing as this one. I just kind of eyeballed an adjustment. It's okay, you know, I want to obviously perfect it for both bikes, but I can do that when I start wrapping things up and finishing up everything else. But yeah, that's on. Got this exhaust on, looking solid with the GSXR wheel and that nice rotor. I gotta just throw on the front part of the exhaust for both bikes. This one goes with this one, that one goes with that one. There's not really a difference. That one is just, I guess, a little nicer looking, so I'm taking that. Yeah, and then I can lower this one onto the ground. And oh my god, that's it for lifting. We're at a pretty solid point. I think I can actually try to fire this one up. It might run weird if I don't have this air box on. Yeah, but I'm just gonna throw those on off camera. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good stopping point. These both will be on the ground, and then I'm gonna have to sit down and think about my approach for engine stuff and swapping over a couple minor stuff like these adjustable foot pegs. These sliders are in a nicer condition because for some reason mine, I bought some cheap eBay ones and they just spin a little bit. These guys are nice and solid. Little minor stuff like that. So yeah, thank you for keeping up with sorry, I'm so out of breath. Oh my god, thank you for keeping up with the series. I appreciate the views. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, or any ideas. I love to read anything if it ever gets posted. And see you on the next one.